The $100,000 Social Security lie that will cost you $800 per month. There's a $100,000 lie floating around retirement circles that quietly chops roughly $800 a month off your Social Security for life. It usually sounds like, claim as soon as you can, take the money. Friends say it, HR hints at it, some advisors wave it through. Here's the fix. I'll show you the simple math and clear rules that tell you whether 62, full retirement age, or 70 actually pays you more without spreadsheets. We'll hit the trigger trio that changes the answer: age, health, and work, and the one form that can lock in a bad decision. Let's kill the lie and build your plan. The lie: why claim ASAP backfires. Most people feel pressure to file early because of urgency bias. You think, it's finally available, I should grab it before it disappears. Add fear of program changes, headlines about trust funds, and friends already cashing checks, and claiming at 62 feels safe. But that instinct usually collides with how Social Security actually pays you. The thing most people miss is that Social Security rewards patience in two ways and punishes rushing in one permanent way. The reward side: delayed retirement credits and inflation protection on a bigger base. The punishment: early filing reductions that never go away. Let's make it plain. Your full benefit, your primary insurance amount, arrives at your full retirement age. File before FRA and your monthly check is cut using a clear formula. 5.9 of 1% for each of the first 36 months early, plus 5.12 of 1% for each additional month. If your FRA is 67 and you file at 62, that's a 30% permanent haircut. Permanent is doing the heavy lifting here. You don't get those dollars back later. Now flip it. If you delay past FRA, you earn delayed retirement credits of 8% per year. Simple, not compounding, until age 70. That means a FRA benefit of, say, $2,000 becomes about $2,480 at 70. A 24% boost that lasts as long as you do. This clicked for me when a client realized the larger check was also the one that got an annual cost of living adjustment on that higher base. COLA isn't a random bonus, it's inflation protection layered on your chosen amount. Pick a bigger amount, you get bigger adjustments for life. Here's why that matters. Your expenses don't stay flat. Healthcare, groceries, utilities, they creep up. When inflation pops, the people who claimed early locked in smaller checks that get smaller COLA dollars. The gap widens over time. If you remember nothing else, remember this: a bigger starting benefit compounds its advantage because COLA applies to the base you choose. There's another piece almost everyone overlooks: survivor benefits. If you're married, the surviving spouse can step up to the higher of the two benefits, up to 100% of the deceased worker's check depending on timing and rules. That means the higher earner's claiming age is effectively an insurance decision for the survivor's lifetime income. Delay by the higher earner often isn't just about your break-even math. It's about protecting the survivor from inflation risk and longevity risk. Claiming ASAP can unintentionally leave your spouse with a smaller check for decades. Now the pushback I hear is, what if Social Security changes? Fair. But most changes historically protect current retirees and those close to claiming ages. Betting against your future income by locking in a permanent reduction today typically costs more than any hypothetical change might save. The better path is to use the rules we know to your advantage. Let me show you the real-world budget pain from starting too small. A viewer filed at 62 to get something. Their initial check covered basics when markets were up. But a year later, they faced higher Medicare premiums, property taxes ticked up, and groceries surged. To keep the same lifestyle, they had to pull more from their IRA. That bumped taxable income nudged them toward higher Medicare premium brackets down the road and created a feedback loop of higher taxes and faster portfolio drawdowns. If they had delayed, the bigger inflation-adjusted Social Security check would have covered more essentials, reducing pressure on the portfolio. Now here's the nuance. This isn't about always waiting. If health is poor, or you need the income to avoid high-interest debt, or your working years are ending abruptly with little savings, earlier can be rational. But claiming because it's there is not a plan. You need to weigh the permanent reduction against your longevity outlook, your spouse's protection, your work status, and your tax picture. The reason claim ASAP becomes a trap is it feels like a quick win that shows up next month while the costs show up slowly. Reduced COLA dollars, smaller survivor protection, higher portfolio withdrawals, and lost delayed credits that you can't recreate later. Once you file and pass the short window to change your mind, you've locked in the math. So we've dismantled the myth: urgency and fear are not strategies. The right answer depends on a few triggers that genuinely move the needle. Now, what actually changes your number? Age, health, and work. That trio drives whether the math favors 62, FRA, or 70, and it's simpler than you think once you see the rules. The trigger trio: age, health, and work status. Let's set the dials that actually move your number: age, health, and work. Once you see how these three interact, your best claiming window usually pops out. Start with age buckets. Think in 3 lanes: 62 to 64 the FRA window and age 70 as the cap. In the 62 to 64 lane, every month early locks in that reduction we talked about. If your FRA is 67, filing at 62 is the maximum cut. Between 65 and FRA, the penalty shrinks, but it's still permanent. Past FRA, every month to 70 adds delayed credits, capped at 70. There's no reason to wait beyond that. Now health, this is your longevity horizon. If your family tends to live long and you're in average or better health, delaying often wins because you'll collect that bigger check longer and COLAs compound on the larger base. If serious health issues shorten your outlook, early may be rational, especially if income is tight and debt is expensive. Here's the shortcut nobody teaches: don't guess alone. Use the SSA life expectancy tool as a baseline, then adjust for your personal facts with your doctor's input and family history. Work status is where most people mess up. If you plan to earn before FRA, the earnings test can bite your cash flow. For 2025, if you're under FRA all year, benefits are withheld $1 for every $2 you earn above the annual limit. In the year you reach FRA, the limit is higher and the withholding ratio eases to $1 for $3 before your FRA month. SSA updates these dollar limits annually. Verify the current thresholds on SSA.gov. It's not a tax, you'll get an adjustment later, but it does mean starting early while working can create choppy income and disappointment. Once you hit FRA, the earnings test vanishes. So how do you use the trio without a spreadsheet? Think break even without drowning in cells. The simple lens is this: claiming early gives you more checks at a smaller amount. Claiming later gives you fewer checks at a larger amount. The point where the totals catch up is often around late 70s to early 80s for many people. If your health suggests you won't reach that zone, earlier might fit. If you expect to sail past it, delaying shifts more lifetime dollars to you and your surviving spouse. Psychology matters too. Some folks need the certainty of a check today to sleep at night. Others value the mathematical edge of a larger inflation-protected payment. The trick is balancing psychological safety with math. One way is to build a cash bucket from savings that bridges you to a better claim age. Another is to partial retire, trimming hours to reduce the earnings test risk while delaying filing. Let me show you a quick decision tree. Start at the top. Are you still working with income above the earnings test limits? If yes, default to waiting until FRA unless you need benefits to avoid high-interest debt. If no, move to health. Do you have average or better longevity expectations? If yes, consider delaying to at least FRA, and the higher earner in a couple should strongly aim for 70. If health is poor, check your cash flow. If you can't meet essentials without debt, filing earlier is reasonable. If you can cover essentials from savings, evaluate a short delay for a better base. Age mixing in couples matters. If one spouse is older and the higher earner, delaying that higher earner's benefit strengthens both the couple's current floor later and the survivor benefit. If the lower earner is older, they might file earlier to bring income in while the higher earner delays. Deemed filing rules mean you generally can't pick just spousal benefits first anymore, so sequence carefully. Before we continue, you need to understand one more nuance about break-even. COLAs apply to the benefit you choose. That means the higher check you lock in at FRA or 70 widens the gap over time if inflation runs hot. So even if the break-even age looks borderline on a flat chart, inflation can tilt the advantage toward delaying. Let me show you exactly how this plays out with a micro story. A couple I worked with had the lower earner claim at 64 once they stopped working. The higher earner kept working part-time, stayed under the earnings test limit, and delayed to 70. Their combined income at 70 was stronger than if both had filed early. And when one passed, the survivor stepped into a larger inflation-adjusted benefit that covered housing and medical costs without raiding investments. Common mistakes to avoid: filing at 62 while still earning well above the limit, underestimating longevity because of one bad year of health, and ignoring the survivor math. Quick win you can do today: log into your SSA account, note your FRA, the estimates at 62, FRA, and 70, and circle which spouse has the higher PIA. That's your anchor for the decision. Once you nail these 3 triggers, age, health, work, everything else clicks. Next, we'll decode the actual numbers behind PIA, FRA, delayed credits, and reductions so you can read your statement like a pro and not leave money on the table. Understanding your numbers, PIA, FRA, DRCs, and penalties. Let's decode the terms that decide your paycheck so you can read your Social Security statement and actually use it. Start with PIA. Your primary insurance amount is the base benefit you get at full retirement age. It comes from your IRMAA, your average indexed monthly earnings. The SSA takes your highest 35 years of covered earnings, indexes most of them for wage growth, averages them, runs that number through a bend point formula, and out comes your PIA. You don't need to memorize the formula. Just know higher lifetime covered earnings and more full years in the top 35 raise your PIA. Missing years count as zeros, so late career work can plug gaps. Full retirement age, or FRA, is the age you can claim that PIA without reduction. For most people born in 1960 or later, FRA is 67. If you were born earlier, it's somewhere between 66 and 67. Your statement lists your FRA and shows estimates at 62, FRA, and 70. Those 3 numbers are the heartbeat of your decision. Now the reduction math. Filing before FRA permanently cuts your check. The formula is month by month. 5.9 of 1% for each of the first 36 months early, then 5.12 of 1% for additional months. Translate that with FRA 67, filing at 62 is 60 months early, which nets roughly a 30% reduction. File 24 months early and it's about 13.3%. The key word is permanent. This reduction doesn't wear off later. It also sets a lower base for every future cost of living adjustment. Delayed retirement credits, DRCs, are the flip side. If you wait past FRA, your benefit grows by 8% per year, prorated monthly until age 70. That's simple interest, not compounding. So a PIA of $2,000 at FRA becomes roughly $2,160 at 68, $2,320 at 69, and about $2,480 at 70. You're choosing a bigger floor for life, and that higher floor will get bigger COLA dollars every year. Now COLA itself. Social Security applies an annual cost of living adjustment based on the CPIW. Whatever your elected benefit is reduced, unreduced, or boosted by DRCs, COLA stacks on top. That's why the starting level matters so much. A percentage COLA on $1,400 delivers fewer dollars than the same percentage on $2,000 or $2,480. Over a decade, those differences become a widening gap in real purchasing power. Let's connect survivor benefits, because this is where many couples get tripped up. Survivor benefits are based largely on the deceased worker's benefit at death, including the effect of early reductions or delayed credits, subject to survivor filing age rules. If the higher earner delays and locks in DRCs, the survivor can step into that larger amount, up to the allowed maximum based on their age when claiming survivor benefits. If the higher earner claims early, the survivor inherits the smaller number. So delaying by the higher earner can be thought of as survivor insurance paid in lifetime income, not premiums. A quick word on spousal benefits to set expectations. A spousal benefit can be as high as 50% of the worker's PIA if the spouse claims at their own FRA. Claiming spousal before FRA reduces it. Deemed filing rules mean if you're eligible for both your own and spousal benefits, you're considered to have filed for both, and you'll get the higher of the two, not both stacked. Survivor benefits are different. Deemed filing doesn't apply there. Now, how to read your statement the right way. Log in at SSA.gov and pull your latest statement. Do 3 things. Verify your earnings history year by year. Errors happen. If a year shows 0 and you worked, that could cost you for life. Gather W-2s or tax returns and fix it with SSA. Note your FRA and the estimated monthly benefits at 62, FRA, and 70. Those are modeled assuming you keep earning at your current rate until filing. If you plan to stop work early, use SSA's online calculator to adjust future earnings assumptions. Identify which spouse has the higher PIA. That person's timing drives survivor protection. Common mistakes when reading the statement. Assuming the 62 number will be the same even if you quit work immediately, forgetting that estimates increase with more earnings, and overlooking that COLA will move all 3 numbers over time but the relationships remain. One more nuance: reductions and credits are calculated monthly. You're not forced to pick just 62, FRA, or 70. Filing at, say, 68 and 4 months earns partial DRCs. If you need to bridge only a year, those extra months still matter. Finally, penalties and flexibility. The early reduction is baked in once you pass the withdrawal window, and the DRC schedule ends at 70. After you claim, COLAs apply to your chosen benefit. Before FRA, working can cause benefits to be withheld under the earnings test, but withheld months are later credited by recalculating your benefit at FRA to reflect the months you effectively didn't receive. It's a postponement, not a tax. If you remember nothing else from this section, PIA is your base, FRA is your unreduced target, early filing cuts it forever, delayed credits raise it until 70, and COLA amplifies whatever choice you lock in. Now let's put real numbers on this with case studies so you can see the trade-offs in dollars, not theory. Case Study A, single filer, 62 versus FRA versus 70. Let's run clean numbers so you can copy the math with your statement. Assume your PIA at FRA is $2,000. That's the check at your full retirement age with no reductions or credits. Using the actual rules, filing at 62 with FRA 67 cuts that by about 30% to roughly $1,400. Waiting past FRA adds 8% per year until 70, so at 70 you're around $2,480. $3 anchor numbers: $1,400 at 62, $2,000 at FRA, $2,480 at 70. Now the lifetime lens without spreadsheets. Let's look at 3 longevity points: age 75, 82, and 90. Ignore COLA for a moment to see the structure, then we'll layer it back in. From 62 to 75 is 13 years, 156 checks. At $1,400, that's about $218,400. If you wait to FRA at 67, you get 8 years to 75, 96 checks at $2,000, that's $192,000. At 70, it's 5 years, 60 checks at $2,480, or about $148,800. At 75, early wins on totals because you got more checks. Push it to 82. From 62 to 82 is 20 years, 240 checks at $1,400, $336,000. FRA, 15 years, 180 checks at $2,000, $360,000. Age 70, 12 years, 144 checks at $2,480, roughly $357,120. Around the early 80s is where FRA and 70 catch, and past 62 for many. It's the break-even zone. Now age 90. From 62, 28 years, 336 checks at $1,400, $470,400. From FRA, 23 years, 276 checks at $2,000, $552,000. From 70, 20 years, 240 checks at $2,480, $595,200. Now the later filing pulls away. That's before we even add inflation adjustments. Layer in COLA because it pushes the advantage toward the higher base. Say COLA averages 2.8% over time. The $1,400 check rises, sure, but 2.8% on $2,000 or $2,480 throws more dollars into your pocket year after year. Over a decade, the dollar gap between the early benefit and the 70 benefit widens. This is why the higher base plus COLA combo is powerful for long lifespans. Cash flow realism matters. Starting at 62 gives a smaller check earlier, which can be a relief if you need it to cover essentials. But starting too small can force higher withdrawals from savings when costs jump, especially health and housing. A viewer in this exact single filer spot filed early, then hit higher utility and insurance bills 2 years later. The shortfall came from their IRA, nudging taxes up and tightening the budget. If that sounds stressful, consider a short bridge from savings to reach FRA or even 68-70 for a stronger base. Break-even without drowning. With our $2,000 PIA example, the FRA versus 62 break-even often lands around age 78-80. 70 versus 62 can be near 80-82. If your health suggests you'll likely clear that zone, delaying can raise lifetime income. If serious health limits push your horizon shorter, earlier filing can be reasonable, especially to avoid high-interest debt. When does early make sense for singles? Here are the practical green light cases. You can't meet basic expenses without debt and have limited savings. Your health outlook suggests a shorter horizon and you value income now. You're shifting to part-time work under the earnings test limits and need a modest top-up, fully aware of the permanent reduction. When does waiting shine? You're in average or better health and expect to live into your 80s. You want a bigger inflation-adjusted floor so investments can take less pressure. You're risk-averse about market swings and prefer guaranteed income covering essentials. Common mistakes for singles: filing at 62 because it's there, not checking the statement for earnings errors, quitting work and assuming estimates won't change, and ignoring the monthly flexibility. Filing at 66 and 8 months still matters. Quick win: create your custom table in 15 minutes. Log in to SSA, grab your estimated benefits at 62, FRA, and 70. Open SSA's online calculator and input your actual earnings if you're stopping work soon. Write down your PIA at FRA, the reduced amount at your earliest intended date, the boosted amount at 70, a simple lifetime total at ages 75, 82, and 90. Then ask, do I have a cash bridge to hit a better base? Can I trim expenses or part-time hours to avoid claiming while above earnings limits? If you need a number to shoot for, aim to cover non-discretionary bills with Social Security plus any pension. If your 62 benefit won't do it and your health is decent, delaying is often the smarter move. Last nuance: you're not stuck with just 62, FRA, or 70. Every month changes the math. If a one-year delay is all you can handle, that still raises your base forever. Small shifts, big lifetime impact. Case Study B: Married Spousal Survivor and Optimization. Now it gets trickier with spouses because two records interact and one choice affects both lives. The simplest rule that saves couples the most money: the higher earner's timing dominates the household outcome, especially for survivor income. Start with roles. Identify who has the higher PIA on their statement. That person's decision is the lever. Why? Survivor benefits. If the higher earner delays and earns delayed retirement credits, that larger benefit can flow to the survivor, subject to survivor filing age rules. If the higher earner files early, the smaller amount echoes through both lives. This is why the higher earner often aims for 70, even if the lower earner files earlier. Now, spousal basics in plain language. A spousal benefit can be up to 50% of the worker's PIA if the spouse claims at their own FRA. It's based on PIA, not the worker's delayed amount. Claiming spousal before your FRA reduces it. Deemed filing means if you're eligible for your own benefit and a spousal benefit, you're considered to have filed for both and you'll receive the higher of the two amounts, not both stacked. And you generally can't collect a spousal benefit until the worker has filed. Let's walk a clean example. Higher earner's PIA is $3,000 at FRA. Lower earner's PIA is $1,200. If both file at FRA, checks are $3,000 and $1,200. If the higher earner delays to 70, their check rises to about $3,720 with DRCs. The spousal maximum 50% of PIA is still anchored to $3,000, not $3,720. But here's the game changer. If the higher earner dies first, the survivor can step up to roughly the higher earner's benefit at death, which includes those DRCs adjusted by the survivor's claiming age. That's why delaying the higher earner often maximizes survivor safety. Age mixing matters. If the lower earner is older, they might file at, say, 64, 66 to bring income in while the higher earner delays. If the lower earner is younger, the couple might bridge expenses from savings until the higher earner reaches FRA 70, then layer in the spousal benefit when it becomes available. Remember, the spousal benefit can't start until the worker files, so sequencing is a puzzle worth solving on paper first. Here's a practical two-step playbook most couples can use. Step 1. Delay the higher earner as long as cash flow allows, targeting 70 for the survivor benefit insurance. Step 2. Decide if the lower earner should file earlier for their own benefit to help cash flow or wait to FRA to maximize their own check or spousal amount later. Let me show you the cash flow trade with another example. Higher earner delays to 70. Lower earner files at 63 with a PIA of $1,200, taking a reduction to roughly $900. The household gets $900 for a few years, then flips to $900 plus $3,720 when the higher earner turns 70. If the higher earner had filed at 62 instead, maybe they'd get around $2,100, and the lower earner's spousal later would cap at 50% of $3,000 PIA at FRA reduced if filed earlier. In year 1, early feels richer. But from 70 onward, and for the survivor, the delayed strategy wins in real dollars and stability. Before we continue, you need to factor inflation risk. Because COLA applies to the benefit you've locked in, the household that builds the bigger base through the higher earners delay collects larger COLA dollars every year. That protects the survivor's purchasing power when medical costs and housing creep up. Now the earnings test twist. If either spouse plans to work before FRA and earn above the limits, starting early can cause withholdings. That can complicate spousal timing because the spousal benefit needs the worker to have filed. If the higher earner is still working and over the limit, consider waiting to file to avoid messy withholdings and instead rely on the lower earner's early claim if needed. Verify current year earnings limits on SSA, Gov because thresholds change annually. Age gap scenarios. If the higher earner is much older, delaying to 70 may still be smart because the survivor's step-up arrives sooner. If the higher earner is much younger, the lower earner might carry the early years with their own reduced benefit while the higher earner accrues DRCs. Just watch deemed filing. When the lower earner reaches their FRA, if spousal would be higher and the higher earner has filed, they can shift to the spousal amount. Common mistakes I see. Having the higher earner file at 62 so we both can start, ignoring survivor math. Assuming the spousal benefit is 50% of the worker's current check, it's 50% of PIA at the spouse's FRA reduced if claimed early. Forgetting the lower earner can file on their own record first and switch to spousal later once the higher earner files, if spousal is higher. Filing strategies that trigger the earnings test while one spouse is still above limits. A simple couples checklist. Who has the higher PIA? Circle it. Can you bridge to at least the higher earner's FRA without high-interest debt? If yes, strongly consider delaying that benefit. Will one spouse still work pre-FRA? If yes, watch the earnings test and likely delay their claim. What's the survivor's housing and health cost plan? Aim for the higher earner at 70 to protect it. Protecting the survivor from inflation risk is the quiet win here. The higher earner's delayed, COLA-boosted check is like a built-in inflation hedge for the spouse who lives longer. That's the outcome you want to lock in. Transition, working while filing can still trip you up. Let's cover the earnings test trap next. The earnings test, working before FRA without losing your mind. Working and claiming before full retirement age can work, but only if you understand how the earnings test actually functions. Most people think it's a tax. It's not. It's a timing rule that withholds checks when you earn above set limits, then later gives you credit for those withheld months. Here's the clean version. If you're under FRA for the entire year, there's an annual earnings limit. Earn above it from wages or net self-employment, and Social Security withholds $1 of benefits for every $2 over the limit. In the year you reach FRA, the limit jumps higher and the withholding eases to $1 for every $3 above that limit, but only for earnings before the month you hit FRA. Starting with your FRA month, the earnings test disappears. You can earn any amount with no withholdings. Note, specific dollar limits are updated annually by SSA. Check the current year thresholds before you file. Two important clarifications. First, earnings here means wages and net self-employment. It doesn't include pensions, IRAs, 401k, withdrawals, annuities, interest, or capital gains. Second, withheld checks aren't lost. When you hit FRA, your benefit is recalculated to reflect the months you effectively didn't receive. It's like you filed later than you did. That's why I call it a timing rule. Now, why does this still trip people up? Cash flow. Let me show you exactly how the math bites. Say you file at 63 with a $1,600 monthly benefit and plan to work part-time. If you earn more than the annual limit, Social Security will withhold enough whole checks to cover the 1 for $2 calculation. That can mean multiple months with zero deposits, then benefits resume later in the year. Most budgets don't love on-off-on income. The game changer nobody talks about is the monthly test in your first year of retirement. If you retire mid-year and won't exceed the monthly limit for the months after you stop work, SSA can pay you for those months even if your total annual earnings are high. That's the special rule for 1 year, and it smooths the transition when you leave a job in, say, June and claim in July. Let me give you a micro story. A viewer retired in September and filed right away. Annual pay was well above the limit, so they were bracing for no checks. but using the monthly test for the last 4 months, they qualified as retired for those months and got full benefits from October onward. The difference was knowing to ask SSA about the special rule. Now, bonuses and lump sum payouts. If you file early in the same year a big bonus posts, that can spike earnings for the year and trigger withholdings. If you can, delay filing until the calendar year after the bonus. Similarly, business owners sometimes have uneven income. If one quarter will be big, consider filing in a quieter quarter or waiting until FRA to avoid headache withholdings. Here's a simple timing playbook. If you're earning well above the annual limit, default to waiting until FRA to claim. You avoid withholdings and keep building delayed credits if you're past FRA. If you're retiring mid-year, use the monthly test. File for the first full month you'll be under the monthly limit and not performing substantial self-employment services. If your income varies, target a low earnings window to start, then pause if needed. Speaking of pausing, flexibility matters. If you claimed early and realize work will exceed the limits, you don't have to white-knuckle through withholdings. You can ask SSA to stop your benefit. If you've reached FRA, you can even suspend to earn delayed retirement credits going forward. Below FRA, stopping simply avoids more withholdings and future recalculation will still credit withheld months. Common mistakes to avoid. Filing at 62 while keeping a full-time salary. You'll trigger withholdings and lock in a permanent reduction with no near-term cash flow. Ignoring the monthly test when retiring mid-year, you might be leaving months of payable benefits on the table. Confusing earnings with investment income. The test doesn't care about IRA withdrawals or dividends. Forgetting that withheld checks are credited later, it feels punitive in the moment, it's really a deferral. Quick win you can do this week. Map your expected wages and self-employment income for the rest of the year and the following year. If you'll be over the limit, circle your FRA month or the next low earnings window as your claim date. If you're already claiming and work spikes, call SSA and ask about suspending or stopping to avoid messy withholdings. The reason this works is simple. You align your first checks with months that actually get paid, and you avoid turning an income bridge into an income roller coaster. Once you get past your FRA month, the earnings test vanishes and the decision reverts to tax planning, not withholdings. That's your green light to work as much as you want while collecting with no surprises. Taxes and Social Security, IRMAA, provisional income, and RMDs. Now the part almost nobody plans for: taxes that quietly shrink your check if you're not careful. 3 levers matter: how Social Security is taxed, how Medicare surcharges, IRMAA hit, and how required minimum distributions collide with your timing. Start with Social Security taxation. The test is called provisional income. Add your adjusted gross income plus any tax-exempt interest plus half of your Social Security. That total determines whether up to 50% or up to 85% of your benefit is taxable at the federal level. If your provisional income lands in the middle band, up to 50% of benefits are taxable. In the top band, up to 85% are taxable. It's not an 85% tax, just that portion is added to your taxable income. The practical takeaway: IRA withdrawals, part-time income, and even muni bond interest can push more of your Social Security into taxation. Now IRMAA, the income-related monthly adjustment amount. This is a Medicare Part B and Part D surcharge tied to your modified adjusted gross income from 2 years prior. If your income crosses the bracket thresholds, your Part B premium jumps above the standard and a Part D add-on appears. For 2025, the standard Part B premium is $185 per person projected. Check Medicare's annual announcement for the final figure. Cross a bracket and you'll pay more, and those surcharges are withheld from your Social Security check if you're receiving benefits. The catch? IRMAA is based on your tax return 2 years ago, but you can appeal with SSA Form SSA 44 if you've had a qualifying life-changing event like retirement, marriage, divorce, or loss of income. Here's where timing meets tax. If you claim Social Security early and also pull from IRAs to cover gaps, you can land in the 85% taxable zone and push MAGI high enough to trigger IRMAA 2 years later. That means a smaller net check just when you hope for stability. On the flip side, using a Roth conversion window before claiming can lower future RMDs and IRMAA exposure, but conversions themselves raise MAGI in the year you do them. That's why many people wait to claim, run strategic conversions in the gap years, and then file with a cleaner tax profile. Let's talk RMDs. At the required start age, traditional IRA and 401(k) distributions must begin, and those withdrawals count fully in MAGI. If you're already receiving Social Security, RMDs can push you into the 85% Social Security taxation zone and into higher IRMAA brackets. Aligning your claiming age with a multi-year plan for RMDs, either shrinking them via Roth conversions earlier or sequencing withdrawals, is how you keep brackets and surcharges in check. A quick mental model. Claim timing affects two cash flows, your taxable income and your Medicare premiums. The goal is to smooth both. If you have a few years between retirement and when you start Social Security, consider drawing taxable or IRA dollars strategically, converting to Roth up to a bracket ceiling that keeps you below an IRMAA threshold, and delaying Social Security so your eventual check is larger and less dependent on IRA withdrawals later. Common mistakes I see. Filing at 62, then doing big IRA withdrawals for a home project in the same year, resulting in 85% of benefits taxed and an IRMAA surprise 2 years later. Ignoring tax-exempt interest. Municipal bond interest still counts in provisional income and MAGI for IRMAA. Forgetting the 2-year IRMAA lookback when planning a one-time Roth conversion. A large conversion at 65 can spike premiums at 67 if you're on Medicare. Now, practical plays that work. If you recently retired and your current income is much lower than 2 years ago, file Form SSA 44 to appeal your IRMAA. It's designed for that. If you're retiring mid-year, consider delaying Social Security to January of the next year so you don't stack partial wages and benefits in the same tax year. If you're charitably inclined and age 70.5 or older, qualified charitable distributions from IRAs can reduce your RMD impact by sending dollars directly to charity. Those distributions don't show up in AGI, helping both provisional income and IRMAA. Watch the Medicare premium calendar. Part B premiums are typically deducted from Social Security. A COLA increase might be partly offset by higher Part B costs or IRMAA. That's another reason the higher base benefit matters. Larger COLA dollars help absorb premium hikes. A micro story to make this real. A couple delayed the higher earner to 70 and used the gap years to convert $200,000 to Roth in chunks just under an IRMAA threshold. When RMDs started later, the balances were smaller, keeping MAGI below a surcharge bracket. Their Social Security was still up to 85% taxable at times, but their net checks were steadier because Medicare premiums didn't jump. If you remember nothing else, provisional income decides how much of your Social Security is taxable. IRMAA uses MAGI from 2 years back to price your Medicare, and RMDs can blow up both if you don't plan. Coordinate claiming age with Roth conversions, staged withdrawals, and IRMAA brackets. Use SSA 44 when a life change slashes income. And keep your cash bucket ready so you don't trigger a big taxable withdrawal in the same year you turn on benefits. Survivor and divorce rules that change the best choice. Timing changes everything for spouses and survivors, so let's lock the rules that actually move dollars. Start with survivor benefits. When a spouse dies, the surviving spouse can step up to as much as 100% of the deceased worker's benefit, subject to the survivor's claiming age. If the worker claimed early, that smaller amount flows to the survivor. If the worker delayed and earned delayed retirement credits, that larger amount is available to the survivor, adjusted if the survivor files before their survivor full retirement age. Translation: the higher earner delaying often acts like survivor insurance. Now, survivor filing ages. A widow or widower can claim survivor benefits as early as 60, but it's reduced if taken before their survivor FRA. If they wait to survivor FRA, they can receive 100% of the deceased worker's benefit at death, including any delayed credits the worker earned. Survivor benefits aren't deemed with retirement benefits, so coordinating the two can unlock real value. Here's the strategy pivot most people miss. The survivor can choose the order. They can take survivor benefits first while letting their own retirement benefit grow, or take their own benefit first and switch to the survivor benefit later, whichever pays more over time. The key is that deemed filing doesn't apply to survivor benefits, so you can sequence intentionally. This clicked for a client when they realized they could take a reduced survivor benefit at 60, then switch to their own larger benefit at 70. But timing cuts both ways. If the deceased spouse claimed early, the survivor can't magically restore those lost dollars. That's why the higher earner's decision before death is critical. A higher earner who delays to 70 leaves a bigger, COLA-boosted survivor benefit that better matches rising medical and housing costs. Now, divorce rules. If you're divorced, unmarried, and your marriage lasted at least 10 years, you may be eligible for a divorced spousal benefit up to 50% of your ex's pay at your FRA, and later, a divorced survivor benefit based on their benefit. Your ex doesn't have to approve or even be notified, and your claim doesn't reduce what they or a current spouse receive. If your ex has not filed but is eligible and you've been divorced at least 2 years, you can still claim on their record. Divorced survivor benefits mirror the survivor logic. If your former spouse passes away and you're unmarried or remarried after 60, you may be eligible for up to 100% of their benefit at your survivor FRA. Again, the deceased's claiming decision matters, early reductions or delayed credits carry through. Remarriage is the landmine. If you remarry before age 60, you generally lose eligibility for survivor benefits on a deceased spouse's record. Remarry at 60 or later and you can keep survivor eligibility. For divorced spousal benefits while the ex is alive, remarriage usually ends eligibility. However, if that later marriage ends, eligibility can resume. Timing your remarriage date around age 60 can be a 5-figure decision over a lifetime. Age coordination matters in widower planning. A surviving spouse may start survivor benefits as early as 60 reduced, then switch to their own retirement benefit at 70 if that will be higher. Or they might start their own benefit early and switch to survivor at survivor FRA to capture 100% of the deceased's amount. The choice depends on which benefit is projected to be larger at the switch point and the survivor's health and cash needs. Common mistakes. Higher earner files early, unintentionally shrinking the survivor's lifelong income. Assuming survivor benefits equal half the worker's check, they can be up to 100% at survivor FRA. Remarrying at 59 and 10 months, unknowingly forfeiting survivor eligibility on a deceased spouse's record. Divorced filers forgetting the 10-year marriage rule or thinking they need the ex's permission. Not reevaluating after a death. Survivor benefit rights don't automatically optimize themselves. Practical checklist. Confirm both spouses' payas and who's higher. Map survivor plan. If the higher earner delays, what will the survivor receive at survivor FRA? If divorced, verify the 10-year marriage and your current marital status. Check remarriage timing relative to age 60 if survivor benefits matter. Run 2 timelines, survivor first then own at 70 and own first then survivor at FRA. Pick the higher lifetime path. Document with SSA. Bring marriage, divorce, and death certificates when claiming. If you remember nothing else, the higher earner's delay protects the survivor. Survivor benefits can be sequenced with your own, and divorce and remarriage timing can make or break eligibility. Get the paperwork right and pick the order that maximizes lifetime dollars, not just next month's check. Special cases, pensions, WEP, GPO, disability, and public sector. Special cases can upend the default plan fast, so let's tackle the rules that most often change the answer. WEP, GPO, disability coordination, and public sector timing. Start with WEP, the windfall elimination provision. This applies if you have a pension from work not covered by Social Security, like some public safety or teaching jobs, and you also earned Social Security credits elsewhere. The thing most people miss is WEP doesn't take away everything. It adjusts how your PIA is calculated by modifying the first bend point factor. Translation: your worker benefit can be reduced but not wiped out, and the reduction is capped and generally cannot exceed half of your non-covered pension, subject to an annual dollar cap set by SSA. If your pension is small, the WEP hit is limited. Also, 30 or more years of substantial earnings in covered work can eliminate WEP. 21-29 years phase it down. If you're close, extra covered earnings years may shrink or erase the WEP impact. Now GPO, the government pension offset. This one affects spousal and survivor benefits if you receive a pension from non-covered work. The offset is generally 2/3 of your non-covered pension subtracted from your spousal or survivor benefit. That means a $1,500 monthly non-covered pension could reduce a spousal survivor benefit by $1,000, possibly to zero. Here's the painful part: WEP hits your own worker benefit, GPO hits spousal survivor. People often plan on a survivor benefit that GPO later wipes out. Before you count on a spouse's record, run the GPO math and verify details with SSA, as administrative interpretations and thresholds can update. Public sector coordination is where planning saves real money. If you're in a job with a state or local pension not covered by Social Security, verify whether you paid Social Security tax in each role. Many careers are mixed, years covered, years not. For mixed histories, gather your pension estimate, whether it's non-covered, your SSA earnings record, and your list of substantial earnings years. That packet lets you estimate the WEP cap and confirm if GPO will affect your spouse's or survivor benefits. Also, check if you have any option to roll non-covered time to covered service or coordinate retirement dates. Sometimes starting your pension later or earlier can change how offsets hit in a given year, though the rules themselves don't vanish. Let's clarify a common misconception. Delayed retirement credits don't offset WEP or GPO at the formula level. Delaying still boosts your own benefit if you're subject to WEP, and that larger base will get COLA, but WEP's calculation still applies. For GPO, delaying your own doesn't rescue a spousal survivor benefit offset by your non-covered pension. That's why expectation setting with spouses is critical. On to disability. If you qualify for Social Security disability insurance, your SSDI amount is essentially your full unreduced retirement benefit based on your record. At your full retirement age, SSDI converts to a retirement benefit automatically, no claiming needed. Key implications. Claiming SSDI avoids the early filing reductions you'd take if you started retirement benefits before FRA. If your health limits work, apply for SSDI rather than filing reduced retirement at 62. When SSDI converts at FRA, you keep the unreduced amount. No delayed retirement credits apply while on SSDI, but you also dodged permanent early reductions. If you tried early retirement first and later qualify for SSDI, SSA can adjust and pay back the difference in some cases. Another reason to document medical evidence early. Public safety edge cases matter too. Some states participate in Social Security for certain departments, others don't. Teachers commonly fall into non-covered systems. If you're a teacher with a non-covered pension and also have a private sector work history, WEP may reduce your worker benefit, and GPO may reduce or eliminate any spousal survivor benefit. That doesn't mean Social Security is useless. Your own reduced benefit still provides COLA-protected income, but don't build a plan assuming a full spousal or survivor layer without testing the GPO math. Where advisors often misread WEP GPO is documentation. Fix that with a checklist. Your pension type and whether it's from non-covered employment. Pension estimate letters showing the gross monthly pension. SSA earnings record to identify covered years and substantial earnings years. SSA's WEP and GPO calculator printouts for your file. Marriage documents if spousal survivor benefits are in play. Decision guardrails for special case filers. If WEP applies, consider working additional covered years to cross a substantial earnings threshold and reduce the hit. If GPO will zero out spousal survivor, plan survivor income around your own benefits and pension, not an assumed Social Security step-up. If health limits work, pursue SSDI rather than locking in early retirement reductions. If you're still working in non-covered employment, coordinate retirement dates, pension start, and Social Security filing to avoid avoidable cash flow surprises. Avoid the trap of counting dollars you won't receive. Verify coverage, run WEP GPO calculators, and build your plan around the benefits that will actually show up. Irreversible moves and how to keep flexibility. The danger isn't filing early, it's filing early without an exit plan. Once you submit an application and pass the short correction window, the reduction locks in, COLAs stack on that smaller base, and survivor math inherits your choice. So your first goal is simple: keep as much flexibility as possible until you're sure. There are only two real reset levers, and both come with strings. First, the withdrawal of application. Within 12 months of first claiming, you can undo your filing as if it never happened. You must repay every dollar paid to you and anyone paid on your record, benefits, withholdings, and any Medicare premiums deducted from checks. If you can repay, your record resets and you can refile later for a higher amount. This is powerful, but it's one time only in your lifetime, and the payback catches many people off guard. Use it as a true mulligan, not a casual toggle. Second, voluntary suspension at full retirement age or later. If you started earlier and reach FRA, you can ask SSA to suspend your benefit. While suspended, you accrue delayed retirement credits 8% per year until you resume or hit age 70. You don't repay past benefits, you just stop future checks and restart higher. Caveat: if anyone is receiving on your record like a spousal benefit, their checks may stop during your suspension. And Medicare Part B premiums will need another way to be paid if they were previously deducted from your Social Security. Now the coordination trap: Medicare. Medicare eligibility generally begins at 65. If you're not yet on Social Security at 65, you need to enroll in Medicare on time, or you can face lifelong late enrollment penalties and coverage gaps. The common sequence that works: delay Social Security but file for Medicare Part B and D if needed within your initial enrollment period, unless you have credible employer coverage. If you're already receiving Social Security by 65, Medicare Part A typically starts automatically and Part B is often auto-enrolled, with premiums deducted from your check. The thing people miss is that turning on Social Security just to make Medicare easier is an expensive workaround. Enroll in Medicare directly if delaying Social Security is otherwise optimal. Here's a quiet but critical tactic: file the right benefit first to preserve options. If you're eligible for a survivor benefit in your own benefit, remember deemed filing doesn't apply to survivor benefits. That means a widower can start the survivor benefit while letting their own grow to 70, or start their own first and switch to survivor later if it will be larger at survivor FRA. Sequencing correctly preserves flexibility in dollars. For married couples, understand that a lower earner filing their own record earlier doesn't limit the higher earner delaying. But once the higher earner files early, you can't recreate those lost delayed credits later, except via suspension at FRA to earn credits going forward. Let me show you where people get trapped by paperwork. A client applied at 62, then realized part-time income would trigger the earnings test. Checks were withheld, cash flow was messy, and they wanted out. Because they were still within 12 months, we used the withdrawal of application, repaid the benefits, and reset. Then when work fully stopped at 66 in some months, they refiled for a higher base. If they'd missed the 12-month mark, we would have waited until FRA and used suspension to rebuild credits. Still good, but not as clean. Before you claim, build a one-page decision memo. Write why you're choosing your date: health, work, survivor plan, tax plan. What would make you change it: job loss, market drop, diagnosis, spouse's health. Which reset lever you use and by when: withdrawal before 12 months, suspension at FRA. Medicare timing and how premiums will be paid if checks are suspended. Which spouse's benefit anchors survivor income and the intended sequence. Print it, put it with your SSA statement and Medicare card. This memo isn't busy work, it prevents panic filings. When life shifts, you'll know if you should pull the withdrawal, suspend at FRA, or simply stay the course. Final guardrails. Don't file just to secure it. Your earnings record is already yours. If you must file early, set a calendar reminder at month 10 to review the withdrawal option before the 12-month window closes. If you hit FRA and regret an early claim, suspend immediately to restart growth. Keep Medicare separate from Social Security timing, optimize each on its own merits. Flexibility is money. Preserve options, know your two reset levers, and sequence benefits to protect both your cash flow today and your lifetime income tomorrow. The 5-step claiming decision framework. Let's turn this into a decision you can make confidently. 5 steps, 1 page, no spreadsheets required. Step 1. Map income needs and guaranteed expenses. List your non-negotiables: housing, utilities, food, insurance, medications, transportation, and taxes. Add a 10% buffer for the Life Happens Fund. Then list guaranteed income sources, pensions, annuities, and Social Security at different ages. The goal is simple: match essentials with guaranteed income. If there's a gap, note how much must come from savings and for how long. This tells you whether you need Social Security now or if a short bridge makes sense. Step 2. Estimate longevity using health and family history. Start with the SSA life expectancy tool as a baseline, then adjust. If your parents and siblings live long and your health is stable, tilt toward a longer horizon. If you have serious conditions that short outlook, tilt earlier. Write a realistic planning age, not a hope like plan to 90 or plan to 82. If your planning age crosses the late 70s, early 80s break-even zone, delaying often pays. If it doesn't, earlier can be reasonable. The point is to avoid guessing, anchor the decision to a number. Step 3. Inventory accounts and tax strategy runway. List account balances by type: taxable, traditional, IRA/401k, Roth. Note RMD start age and your expected tax bracket for the next 5 years. Ask 3 questions. Do I have room to do Roth conversions before claiming without tripping IRMAA later? Can I fund a cash bridge from taxable accounts to delay Social Security? Will RMDs later push me into higher IRMAA brackets if I claim now? If the answer suggests a window to convert or draw down IRAs before claiming, that window is valuable. Step 4. Coordinate with your spouse or your survivor needs if single. Identify the higher PIA. Protecting the survivor matters, so aim for the higher earner to delay, ideally to 70 if cash flow allows. Decide whether the lower earner should start earlier to support the bridge or wait to FRA to maximize a spousal calculation. If single, write your survivor plan differently. Who manages your housing and health costs later? That often argues for a higher, COLA-boosted base. Step 5. Choose claim date windows and backup plans. You're not picking a single day, you're choosing a window with triggers. For example, target 70 for higher earner. If markets drop 25% or a major health diagnosis hits, claim at 68. Lower earner claims at 64 only if part-time income stops, otherwise wait to FRA. Add your reset levers. If we file early, reassess at month 10 for a possible withdrawal. If already at FRA, suspend if work restarts. Add Medicare timing and how premiums are paid if benefits pause. Let me show you exactly how to put it on one page. At the top, write your planning age, your FRA, and your PIA-S. Next, list essentials and guaranteed income totals at 62, FRA, and 70. Circle the mix that covers essentials with the least portfolio strain. In the margin, record the IRMAA bracket you want to stay under and the dollar threshold that matters for your filing status. Then write your bridge plan, which account funds which months, and the bracket ceiling you won't cross. Finally, add your 3 triggers that flip the answer: health change, job loss, or market crash. Common mistakes this framework prevents: filing at 62 because a friend did, delaying without a cash bridge, then rating IRAs in a high tax year, ignoring IRMAA thresholds and getting a surprise premium letter, and forgetting you can suspend at FRA to rebuild delayed credits if life changes. A quick micro story. A couple mapped essentials at $4,600. Guaranteed pension covered $1,200. At 62, their combined Social Security would cover $3,000, short by $400 plus a buffer. At 70, they'd cover $5,100 with COLA headroom. They chose a 5-year bridge using taxable savings and partial Roth conversions under an IRMAA line. They set triggers. If a health diagnosis appeared, the higher earner would file at 68. If markets dropped 25% at 69, none happened. At 70, they turned on a stronger base that now absorbs Medicare increases and lets their portfolio breathe. Now you try. Write your planning age, list essentials and guaranteed income. Circle the higher PIA, pick a claim window for each spouse or for you if single, and set 2 alternate dates tied to clear triggers. Note which account funds the bridge and where your IRMAA ceiling sits. Add your reset lever and deadline, withdraw within 12 months if needed or suspend at FRA. This is your script for when emotions spike. If you remember nothing else, cover essentials with the safest dollars, protect the survivor with the higher earner's delay, use your tax runway before claiming, and lock triggers that change your answer without panic. This 5-step framework turns "I hope this works" into "Here's why it works, and here's plan B." Quick scenarios, choose your path walkthroughs. Let's make this real with 3 quick choose your path scenarios. I'll give you the facts, you pick the path, I'll show the payoff, and I'll flag the trap that flips the answer. Scenario 1, single, average health, part-time income. You're 63, fra 67, paya $2,000. You plan to earn $18,000 this year, then $10,000 next year. Savings, $90,000 taxable, $210,000 in a traditional IRA. Expenses, $3,400 per month all in. Your options. Path A, file now. You'd get about $1,733 monthly at 63, no earnings test problem since you're under the annual limit. You'll still need roughly $1,700 monthly from savings to cover the gap. Path B, wait to 67, bridge 4 years from savings. You lock in $2,000 monthly at FRA, shrinking the ongoing portfolio draw. Path C, split the difference. File at 65, 2 years early, roughly $1,866 and bridge less. Best fit, Path B if your health is average and you can bridge from taxable savings first, then small IRA draws. Why? At 67, the bigger check cuts your IRA dependency and reduces future tax hits that could push your Social Security into the 85% taxable range. What flips the answer? A health diagnosis or job loss that drains cash quickly, then Path C keeps stability without locking the deepest reduction. Common mistake, filing now and then taking big IRA withdrawals for a car or roof, stacking taxation and risking IRMAA later. Scenario 2, married, large income gap, mortgage left. Higher earner 64, paya $3,000, lower earner 63, paya $1,100. Mortgage $1,600 monthly for 7 more years. Cash $50,000 taxable, $600,000 pre-tax. Work, higher earner is retiring this year, lower earner already retired. Options. Path A, both file now. Household income starts around $2,100 plus $1,000, lower earner reduced, roughly $3,100. Immediate relief, permanent smaller base, weaker survivor. Path B, lower earner files now on their own, about $880. Higher earner delays to 70, reaching about $3,720. At 70, household jumps to roughly $4,600 plus COLAs, survivor protected. Path C, both wait to FRA, then file together. Solid base, bigger bridge required now. Best fit, Path B if you can cover the mortgage and essentials using the lower earner's reduced benefit plus a measured draw from taxable and small IRA withdrawals. The higher earner at 70 raises both household durability and the survivor's floor. What flips the answer? If cash is too tight and you'd incur high-interest debt, let the higher earner file at FRA instead of 70 to ease the bridge, then layer spousal at the lower earner's FRA. Common mistake, assuming the spousal benefit is 50% of the higher earner's delayed amount. It's tied to their PIA and reduced if claimed early. Scenario 3, widowed with pension, modest savings. You're 61, receiving a $1,200 month survivor pension from a late spouse's employer. Your own PIA is $1,700. You also qualify for a Social Security survivor benefit on your late spouse's record, estimated at $2,100 at survivor FRA. Savings, $180,000 IRA, $30,000 cash. Health, good. Options. Path A, claim survivor at 60, reduced now, then switch to your own at 70 for the maximum on your record. Path B, claim your own early at 62, reduced, then switch to full survivor at survivor FRA to get 100% of the deceased's benefit. Path C, wait on both until survivor FRA, then pick the larger for life. Best fit, Path A if your own benefit at 70 will exceed the full survivor at survivor FRA. You take a reduced survivor now to cover cash flow, let your own grow with delayed credits to 70, then switch and lock the higher lifetime base. If the full survivor at FRA is larger than your age 70 benefit, flip it. Take your own early, then switch to survivor at survivor FRA. Path B. What flips the answer? Remarrying before 60, doing so can forfeit survivor eligibility on the prior spouse's record. Common mistake, assuming deemed filing applies here, it doesn't for survivor benefits, which lets you sequence strategically. Now you try. For each scenario, write these 4 lines: which benefit first, which age to switch, if any, how you'll bridge cash without breaching an IRMAA threshold, and the trigger that changes your plan. Keep the earnings test in sight if anyone works pre-FRA, and use the 1-year monthly test if you retire mid-year. Quick action you can do tonight. Pull both SSA statements if married, yours if single or widowed. List your PIA's estimates at 62, FRA 70, and if applicable, the estimated survivor benefit. Pick a default path and one flip condition: health change, job loss, or market drawdown. Circle one IRMAA threshold you refuse to cross during any bridge or conversion year. If one variable changes, like a bonus hits after you file, a diagnosis alters longevity, or a pension COLA lags inflation, don't guess. Rerun the path with the same 4 lines. The framework holds, and the optimal sequence usually reveals itself fast. The 10 most expensive Social Security mistakes. Let us rapid fire the costliest errors so you can avoid them. Mistake 1: filing at 62 just because. The urge to get something ignores your cash needs, health horizon, taxes, and survivor math. Fix it. Run a simple break-even check, confirm essentials, and only file early if it prevents high-interest debt or your health outlook is short. Mistake 2: ignoring survivor math for the higher earner. When the higher earner files early, the survivor often inherits a smaller check for life. Fix it. Aim for the higher earner to delay, ideally to 70, so the survivor steps into a larger COLA-boosted benefit. Mistake 3: claiming while earning above the earnings test limits pre-FRA. You'll trigger withheld checks and messy cash flow while locking in a permanent reduction. Fix it. If earnings exceed limits, wait to FRA or use the 1-year monthly test if you retire mid-year. Mistake 4: missing your Roth conversion window before filing. Turning benefits on too soon can limit low-tax conversion years and raise future RMDs and IRMAA. Fix it. Consider delaying Social Security while you convert within bracket and IRMAA guardrails. Mistake 5: overlooking IRMAA. High magi from IRA withdrawals, capital gains, or conversions can raise Medicare Part B and D premiums 2 years later. Fix it. Learn the brackets, pace withdrawals, and file SSA 44 after a qualifying life change like retirement. Mistake 6: not checking your SSA earnings record. A missing year or underreported wages can shave dollars off your PIA for life. Fix it. Log in, verify year-by-year earnings, and correct with W-2s or tax returns. Mistake 7: misunderstanding spousal benefit rules. Spousal max is 50% of the worker's PIA at the spouse's FRA, reduced if claimed earlier, and it generally requires the worker to have filed. Fix it. Plan sequencing so the lower earner doesn't claim spousal too soon and cap it. Mistake 8: forgetting your reset options. Many people feel trapped after an early claim. Fix it. Within 12 months, a withdrawal of application can reset everything if you repay benefits. At FRA, voluntary suspension restarts 8% annual credits. Mistake 9: letting fear of program changes drive decisions. Panic filing for what if usually costs far more than potential rule tweaks. Fix it. Use today's rules, keep flexibility, and set triggers that would change your date logically, not emotionally. Mistake 10: not coordinating Medicare timelines. Filing Social Security isn't required to enroll in Medicare. Fix it. If you delay Social Security past 65, enroll in Medicare on time or maintain credible employer coverage to avoid lifelong penalties. Now a few silent killers that hide inside those 10. Bonus year filing. Starting benefits in the same calendar year, a big bonus or severance hits can cause earnings test withholdings and spike magi for future IRMAA. Fix it. Slide your claim to January of the next year. Filing the wrong benefit first for widow-er-s. Deemed filing doesn't apply to survivor benefits. Fix it. Decide whether to take survivor first and switch to your own at 70, or the reverse based on which ends up higher. Assuming COLA makes early good enough. COLA applies to whatever base you lock. Fix it. Prioritize building the larger base if you'll likely live into your 80s. WEP GPO blind spots. Counting on a spousal or survivor benefit that GPO wipes out or failing to add substantial earnings years to shrink WEP. Fix it. Run SSA's WEP GPO tools and gather pension letters. Quitting work before 35 full covered years. Zeros in your IRMAA lower PIA. Fix it. Even a couple extra years can replace zeros and raise your base forever. Confusing investment income with earnings. The earnings test ignores dividends, interest, and IRA withdrawals, but taxes and IRMAA don't. Fix it. Separate cash flow timing from tax planning. Your quick checklist to dodge the landmines. Verify earnings record, confirm PIAs and FRA. Map essentials and guaranteed income, identify your bridge. Mark IRMAA thresholds and your SSA 44 trigger. Set the higher earners default to delay, plan the lower earners roll. Choose a claim window +2 flip triggers. Calendar month 10 after any early filing to review the withdrawal option. At FRA, consider suspension if facts change. Avoid these mistakes and you keep more of every benefit dollar month after month for life. Your 30-day action plan. Week 1, pull your numbers. Log in to your My Social Security account and download your statement. Verify every year of earnings, no blanks, no obvious underreported years. Note your full retirement age and PIA. Print the page showing estimates at 62, FRA, and 70. If you're married, do this for both of you. While you're there, grab your Medicare timeline if you're near 65. Quick check, if you're still working, confirm whether this year's wages are on pace to exceed the earnings test limits before FRA. Week 2, build your 5-year cash and tax map. List your essential monthly expenses and multiply by 12, then add 10% for surprises. Next, list expected income by source and year. Wages, pensions, annuities, dividends, IRA withdrawals, and only if you've already claimed Social Security. Calculate your provisional income for the coming year to see how much of Social Security would be taxable if you turned it on. Mark the current IRMAA brackets you want to avoid and circle one threshold that becomes your do not cross line. If you're retiring mid-year, decide whether to push claiming to January to avoid stacking wages and benefits in the same tax year. Week 3, coordinate spouse and survivor strategy or your survivor plan if single. Identify the higher PIA. Decide if you can bridge to at least that person's FRA, ideally to 70, to maximize the survivor floor. Lay out the lower earners roll, claim now on their own for cash flow, or wait to FRA for a bigger check or spousal later. If widowed or divorced, document eligibility, marriage dates, divorce decree, death certificate. Draft the sequence, which benefit first, when to switch, and which month benefits actually start. If anyone will work pre-FRA, pencil the monthly test plan for the first year of retirement. Week 4, pick your claim window and triggers. You're choosing ranges, not rigid dates. Right? Default higher earner files at 70, lower earner files at FRA. Triggers health diagnosis, major market drop, job loss. Add backups. If filing early, set a reminder at month 10 to consider withdrawing the application. If at FRA with regrets, suspend and earn credits. Include Medicare. If delaying Social Security past 65, enroll in Part B on time unless you have credible employer coverage. Note how Part B premiums will be paid if checks are suspended. Create your binder or a shared drive folder with 5 tabs. 1. SSA statements and earnings verification. 2. Cash and tax map with your IRMAA threshold. 3. Claiming strategy and survivor plan. 4. Medicare timelines and how premiums are paid. 5. Reset levers and deadlines. Add printed results from SSA calculators for WEP GPO if you have a non-covered pension. Staple your one-page decision memo to the front. Now schedule 2 calls. First, SSA. Ask about the monthly test if you're retiring mid-year, how to suspend at FRA if needed, and what documentation you'll need for survivor or divorced spouse claims. Second, your tax pro or financial planner. Confirm your Roth conversion runway, bracket ceilings, and an IRMAA-aware drawdown plan. Bring your cash map and threshold so the advice fits your numbers, not generic rules. Finally, set 3 calendar reminders. 1. 90 days before your claim window opens to recheck health, work, and market triggers. one in early November each year to project next year's income against IRMAA, and one at month 10 after any early filing to review the withdrawal option. What you'll have by day 30: verified numbers, a survivor-safe default, an IRMAA-aware tax plan, and 2 reset exits if life changes. That's a calm, high-confidence path, larger, steadier checks without guesswork. The key takeaway: align your filing age with health, work, taxes, and survivor needs to lock a bigger, COLA-boosted base that actually lasts. Now act, complete the 30-day plan, fill your binder, and set your triggers. Then watch the deep dive on IRMAA and RMD coordination to protect your net check, not just the headline amount. Subscribe for senior finance guides that save money and stress, and I'll walk you through each step next.